Mary Magdalene didn't expect to find Jesus alive right there in the garden for her. She saw him die and was so distraught she didn't even recognize him right in front of her. But when Jesus said her name with love, she knew, and she witnessed, stepped forward as the apostle to the apostles and to all Christians, the one chosen by Jesus to announce the miracle of the resurrection. Today is the feast of Saint Mary Magdalene. I ask you to open your bulletins, please, to the inside back. In there, you will see the icon that hangs in our chapel of Saint Mary Magdalene, with Mary looking you directly in the eye. Look at it. She's looking you in the eye and saying, yes, you. And look at her hands. One, a quite large hand with a long index finger, is pointing directly at the egg. So yes, you look at this egg and understand and believe and go forth. So what's up with the egg anyway? Well, the egg is all the metaphors of egg that you can think of. The shell hides a spectacular secret inside. Life. The shell itself is made to be broken so that life can flourish. The tradition relates that Mary went about evangelizing Jesus' resurrection, and she went to the Emperor Tiberius in Rome, who essentially scoffed, yeah, right, risen from the dead. He has no more risen than the egg in your hand can turn red. And immediately, the egg in her hand turned red. The icon that we're looking at in the bulletin and in our chapel, it's the moment that it's about to happen. Watch closely now. That's what Mary Magdalene's eyes tell us with their intensity in this icon. Watch closely now. It's about to happen. The secret is about to be revealed. The grave cannot hold Jesus. He has burst the tomb. He is risen. And the constraints of being a woman in her day and all through the millennia could not hold her witness back, even through all these centuries. Mary Magdalene is a prominent leader in Christian history. She was the most stalwart of the disciples. She was very likely a woman with means and supported Jesus in his ministry, although certainly she at least was with him on his mission. And she was at the foot of the cross when others were afraid to be near. And in John's gospel, she came to the tomb alone. And she is the one Jesus chose to reveal his resurrected life to. And Mary recognized Jesus when he called her by her name. As Christians, we are called by name, like Saint Mary Magdalene, to do exactly what Jesus told her to do on Easter morning: bear witness and go and tell. The risen Jesus calls us by name, invites us to really see him, just like he did with Mary Magdalene that Easter morning. Once we hear that call, we are changed. Now, if you're like me, you would actually like to hear him call, as if there were a tape recorder in the room, it would catch the audible sound of Jesus saying, Nancy. But the Spirit moves not in the way that we bid, and in so many ways that are unexpected. When someone said to me years ago, Nancy, do you want to take over my singing gig in an Episcopal church choir? That was Jesus calling my name. On my wedding day, Nancy, do you take this man to be your husband? Jesus calling my name. In Berkeley, a friend saying, Nancy, you should come to my church with me. Jesus calling my name. Outside a deli, in the Mission District on my quick lunch break from my communications job. Hey, lady, will you buy me a chicken sandwich? Jesus calling my name. Jesus has often called me, hey, lady. I worked in the Bronx. I'm not saying that every time someone said Nancy, it was Jesus calling my name, though surely it was whenever anyone beseeched, hey, lady. But when I had my heart open to see him there, like marrying for love and spiritual connection, like an invitation to attend an unfamiliar church, like a stranger asking me to buy him something to eat that he really liked. That is Jesus calling my name. Maybe that resonates for you too in your own life experience. The risen Jesus calls us by name with tenderness, just like he did to Mary Magdalene that Easter morning. Can we open our hearts and then see him truly as she did, and our hearts respond, Teacher, beloved? Do you expect to encounter Jesus alive in the world, in you and in your neighbor, in people you disagree with, and people who help you, and people who ask you for things? Because that's where the risen Christ is. Our hearts need to recognize him in order to bear witness to him. And bearing witness is what we are called to do in our times. It's not a passive watching. It's a showing up with power and intention, even when we don't have the position to fully change the thing. I call your name. And when Jesus calls you, and he does call you, even those of us with ears that have trouble hearing, he's calling you to a purpose. And believe me, I know that hearing thing is a challenge. Most of us don't hear Jesus with our ears, and that's not a deficiency, friends. But the Spirit of God inside of us is there, and we can tune in with intention, making quiet space to recognize an intuition, a sense, or a conviction in our gut, in our heart. The Jesuit priest and retreat leader, Father Jeff Sullivan, talked about how participants often describe how they hear God as a nudge, a sense of peace, a call to do something even when the path ahead may be unclear, a feeling of hope, of being drawn to God, perhaps in the voice of another person, or felt suddenly like turning on a light bulb. All of that rings true for me. To me, it might more aptly be described as feeling God more than hearing God. And you know, I think that may be true for Mary Magdalene on Easter morning. There certainly is something powerful, so powerful, in Jesus saying her name. But I always imagine that it's the way he said it, the love imbued in the saying of her name, that ignited this sudden recognition, the familiar and overwhelming feeling of Jesus' love. The writer Martin Molina feels that about this icon of Mary Magdalene that we have. When you look at it, he said, it's like she's saying to you, can you not feel it within you? This nudging from God's Spirit, this tugging of God's love at your heart, it starts inside of you. How can you not know this? It is in the heart where love begins to grow. Love expands like the universe, literally. Well, fellow Christians, we already know that the egg will turn red. Mary Magdalene is looking us right in the eye. And Jesus calls our name to a purpose, to recognize our own belovedness and therefore the belovedness of every single human being, to bear witness to the resurrection in the way we live and show and share our faith, and to answer, as Mary did, Teacher, to recognize Jesus as our teacher in deep and urgent ways when we're trying to figure out this world and our place and our work in this world? Are we listening for our teacher? Jesus is saying your name. And every time you recognize Jesus in one of these, the least of my people, you are Mary Magdalene in the garden, in the midst of a broken empire, facing the risen Christ with incredulity and incredible joy, and a fire of mission to spread his word, spread his love, to spread that love that never ends, like the life of Christ, risen from the dead, never ending. Expect to find Jesus alive within and all around you. That is what gives us life.